error occurred. That's how it happens. Come on, there we go. Okay. We're heading in the right direction. Got an ad to watch. Come on. There we go. All right. So, got that set. I'm going to pop out the chat and make it live chat. Extend out the window a bit so I can see better, and do that, and do this, and then do this. Hooray. All right, we're all set. Let's see here. Got a bunch of people already chatting in here, which is nice. Roy Hopkins, Brother Bear, Grim JD, Mr. T. Pims, VJ Morph, Sam Lloyd, John Ashley Smith. Howdy to all you folks. Checking in from South Ontario, Canuckistan. There you go. Good afternoon from spring, sunny Berlin, Germany. It is not particularly springy here, sadly, which is a bummer. It's a beautiful morning in Newark, Delaware. Checking in for a little while before I'm scheduled to go play some D&D this afternoon. Nice. First time I caught one of these live, just as I sit down to repaint some. Well, there you go. Fish on the hill. I'm glad to have you here. Afternoon from Puckle in the UK. That's a lot of fun to say, Puckle. Busy working on some Wild West stuff for the Two Fat Lardies. What a cowboy game. I just heard about that recently. I've always been interested in What a Tanker, I think, but I've never gotten a chance to play. I've seen it played at conventions before, but I've never got a chance to try it out. I'll have to bail early, taking my daughter to the Mario movie. We'll have a good time with that. Let's see here. Got my first airbrush set up this week. Glad I finally stopped being scared and took the leap. Even just the flexibility with priming is worth it. Absolutely. Yeah, just being able to prime when it's like rainy or cold or windy or bees or whatever. It's really nice to be able to just prime in the house. Comp Native, how you doing? Morning from a cloudy Milwaukee. Yeah, also cloudy up here. Greetings from Cleveland. Working on Angron. Nice. Just wrapped Sunday here. Nice chilled day. Catching up on sleep and enjoying the little guy being home from school holidays at the in-laws. Nice. Morning from Quebec. How you doing? Good morning from rainy Belper. Yes, that's a real place name. I mean, I'm going to take your word for it. I've not heard of it before, but that's fun. Farmington Hills, Michigan is what I'm trying to say. Clearwater, Florida, Wichita, Kansas, Jonesboro, Illinois. Let's see here. Packing up the car to go learn to play Conquest First Blood with some friends. Nice. Great state of Texas, Salt Lake City, Germany, Boston, Kent, England. Happy Sunday morning from Long Island. Let's see here. Sick of the snow, hoping spring will get here. Yeah, we don't have any snow, but I mean, it was like super crazy nice and warm last weekend, but we got tricked. We were duped. Spending my afternoon 3D printing little crates of vegetables and barrels and stuff. Well, that's fun. Good morning from the perfect priming weather of Washington, D.C. Hope you're doing well. UK just tested emergency tone while I was listening to Deliverance Lost. I nearly had a heart attack. Sure, I can understand that. We had a tornado siren test on Friday at like 1:45, which was a little random, but they usually happen at noon on Saturdays, and that happened as well, but there was a special one on Friday for some reason. So Wolfsburg, Germany, nice weather outside. Got infected with a little hype for 10th and decided to paint all the Indominus Marines. Well, there you go. Just finished some more playtesting on my Star Wars deck building game solo mode rules. Nice. Checking in from a post Salute 50. Yeah, I saw a bunch of pictures and stuff like that on my timeline from Salute. Looked like a good time. Good morning from Mexico City. Had to Control Z the primer on some minis due to some fuzzy primer and made them all look suede. I've had that happen myself, yes. Good morning from Saskatchewan. Had a foot of snow here a few days ago. Slowly starting to melt now. Oh, that's no fun, yeah. Unexpectedly cold in Tennessee. Also playing our every other Sunday D&D this afternoon. Nice. Designing my game board. Check YouTube. Terrain board Sunday show. You say, what a coincidence. Yeah, I mean, I've got some ideas for some game boards I want to build this year, and spring is the best time, in my opinion, to do it. And I'll talk a little bit about it more in a bit. Let's see here. The Edge Hill I built a couple weeks ago was a big hit on Friday night's Gasland and Cheeseburgers. Nice. Morning from Chicago. Howdy. Morning from an actually done snowing Minnesota. Well, we'll see. Building a marine hover tank, which is in 2 combat patrols, multi-duty and all that. Yeah, the floating El Camino is in Black Templar. Well, actually, I think it's in multiples. I think it's in the Black Templar. I think it's in Blood Angels and also just the regular Space Marines box, if I remember correctly. Enjoying my Salute 2013 or 2023 purchases. Nice. Did you get a chance to Google Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds? Did it ring any bells for you? It didn't, no. Can't stay, but wanted to pop in and say hi. Well, absolutely, Funky Joe. Hope you're doing well. Connecticut, London, Ontario, Mesa, Arizona, Central Minnesota, Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, Northern Sweden. How you doing? Hello from Ireland. Just got ahead of just got in ahead of a storm. Rain in Ireland. Who'd have thunk it? I mean, yeah. Let's see here. Morning from Forest Park, Illinois, after a great week in LA for vacation. Well, that's fun. Meofam, Kent. Don't think I've heard that name before. Let's see here. Montana, Madrid. Let's see here. Belgium. St. Louis, painting up the Black Templars Combat Patrol box in anticipation of 10th. Nice. Yeah, I thought about that one, and it was either that one or the Blood Angels, and I've never really painted red a lot, so I think it'd be kind of fun. Plus, I got a good friend who is a Blood Angels fan, so he can use that army when we get together and play and such. Edmonton, Tinley Park, West Texas, Philadelphia, New Lenox. Hello from Germany. Germany near Cologne. I swear to God, Vince is going to be in Cologne at some point for work. We were just talking about that recently. The Impulsor Flying El Camino is in Blood Angels, Black Templar, and the regular one. Yep. Edinburgh, Scotland. Got some Eggshell Menhir objectives markers to paint and a new monster for Warcry if I don't break it again. Yeah, I can understand that. It's happened to me. Raining like crazy here on Long Island. Started Vashtor trying how to resculpt its weird mouth. I haven't looked really super close at Vashtor. Greetings from Switzerland. It's the end of April. I have to plug in the space heater in the basement. Yeah, no, it's pretty chilly in our basement. Spending the whole day painting my kitchen. Oh, that's about right. Farmington, Missouri. Thunderchild. Poland. Good morning from the panhandle of Florida. I'm watching while researching new airbrushes and compressors. I've primed with my last rattle can. No more. Gotcha. I can understand that. Especially like in Florida, it can be very humid from what I understand. I really wonder how they would balance all the combat patrols. They are so wildly different in composition. Yeah, that's a good question. If I had to guess, and this is a guess, I think some of them that are wildly over-pointed, you know, like let's say the Custodes, for example, they may either just go in there and go, look, you can't run everything in this box, or they'll just nerf them a whole lot, only for combat patrol, of course. And then that way those things will match up. Or they'll beef up they'll buff a bunch of other ones that are, and make them tougher than they would be in 40K by some numbers or something like that. But we don't know yet. I've had a bunch of people in the comments from Friday's video who are like, no, I don't think they're going to do that at all. I'm pretty sure they're going to release all new combat patrol boxes. And I'm like, oh, well, that'll kill it then, because it'll take them 2 years to produce new combat patrol boxes for all the factions that they currently have. They can't put those all out at once. Everyone always thinks that they can put everything all out at once. Even if they could, like manufacturing wise, cost wise, if you're a store owner and GW is like, hey, there's 20 new combat patrol boxes, how many do you want of each? As a store owner, you'd be like, no, I'm not, I don't have that kind of money to drop. No. What am I going to do with the old ones? No. Like, that's why they trickle things out. That's part of it, is because not only just because it's better for them, but the store owners would be like, yeah, don't send so much stuff. I can't pay for it. You know what I mean? So, will they probably release some new ones? Oh, for sure. Like, I would suspect that probably Tyranids will get a new combat patrol box like right near launch 10th, because they'll have new models. And so why not put them in combat patrol? Also, that Tyranid box is pretty old. I have a suspicion that the Necron box will either get some special love in some fashion because it's got a flyer in it. It's the only one that does. Or they're going to have to figure out, so by a special love, I mean they're going to have to tweak the rules for it. Or they'll come out with a new, Necron box, which they probably ought to anyway, because they've got new Necron models since like 3rd, right? So anyway, or sorry, not 3rd, 3 years ago, 10th is what, or 9th, 8th, 9th, whatever. I feel duped by getting a boarding patrol box. Now I'm looking for cheap walls. I know Battle System has some cool cardboard painted walls. I don't know a ton about boarding patrol. You know what I mean? I know that, like, it's not the same thing as combat patrol, boarding actions. I know boarding actions is its own game and it uses the walls, but yeah, I don't really know much about it. Hello from Poland. Morning from California. Connecticut. Pronounced Mepham. The O is silent. Interesting. Birmingham says hello. Well, I do at least. Well, I appreciate that. Thinking terrain boards for a new Gamers Warcry co-op campaign to run this summer. Hello from Virginia. All right. Well, yeah. We've played. Sam has a board that he made for Warcry that is like 3-dimensional. It doesn't have like all kinds of like we put stuff on top of it, terrain, to make it 3-dimensional, but it is a physical board that has like grit and cracks in it and little things like that to make it look. I don't have a problem with gaming mats. Gaming mats are very useful. I own a bunch, but specifically for photography's sake, I like having a 3-dimensional board, even if it's not like super crazy like hills and valleys and divots and stuff like that. It just is nicer having a board look like that, because it just, when you shoot something photography wise and you want to get down low to the level of the miniature and then shoot, not shoot down at it, but shoot across like this, if it's sitting on one of those mats, one of those like rubbery kind of like mouse pad mats, all you just see is the pattern of the cloth going off into the distance where the model is sitting. If you shoot it from above, you don't notice it as much, but when you shoot it along the surface, all you just see is that texture. And that's why I try not to do that. And that's why another reason as well why I want to build some boards. My plan is to build on a 4x8 sheet of paper, 4x8 sheet of plywood. I can get 2 44x30s, which is what size you play Combat Patrol on. It's also the size you play Incursion on, which is the 1,000-point games. So I can do that. And but then I also recently picked up from Lowe's. They have these things called project boards. And project boards are 2-foot by 2-foot pieces of plywood. They come in different thicknesses and stuff like that. And they also sell 2-foot by 2-foot pieces of XPS foam. It's not the pink foam, but it's the green foam that you use for that kind of stuff. And it's like purpose made for tabletop gaming. Like, it's perfect for Forbidden Psalm, Last War, Kill Sample Process. I got my Kill Sample Process book finally. It's right here. But yeah, so those games are all played on 2x2s, and it works out really well for that. So I've picked up a couple of those, and I'm going to do some fun stuff with that. Get a little wacky with the Mod Podge and black paint and all that kind of jazz. Probably make some video content about it. But the thing is it's better to do it, I find personally, to do it outside, because then it can dry, it can outgas, it can, it's just, I don't know, it's less messy, it feels like, or at least if it gets messy, it's messy outside, and outside is messy. That's where it works. Just started painting my old Cities of Death GW terrain. It needed an update. Yeah, I got some pieces of that kind of stuff too that has been painted for years, and I'm wondering if I don't want to maybe give it an update. Maybe just some dry brushing, honestly. I can see why spring would be good for terrain, good weather to be outside for a while and do broad strokes with big brushes and rattle cans, also quicker dry. Yeah, exactly. You got that. Is the flying croissant in the Necron box? It is. Yeah, it is. Which is why I think they might either replace that or make special rules in Combat Patrol to turn that into more like a hover thing, as opposed to, because there's hovering stuff, obviously. There's the flying El Caminos and things like that. And the Dark Eldar, whatever the heck they're called these days, they have those flying boats, but they're not flyers. They're skimmers or whatever and stuff. So, yeah. Say the flyer is a skimmer or land speeder, call it done. Yeah, I could easily see them doing that. Silver Bayonet minis to paint to play the first game ahead of the first tranche of expansions. Well, nice. It's good use of the word tranche, too. I like that. Boarding Actions has its rules spread across 5 or 6 books, so you'd love it. Oh, yeah, no, that's the other issue, too. I'm like, oh, yeah, so where's the Boarding Actions book or whatever? And they're like, oh, no. No, we hit it like a, what do you call those? Like a, it's like a little search party kind of game. You have to, no, thank you. Let's see. Still don't understand why GW is advertising Boarding Patrol when you cannot get the basic rules, only the Abaddon book, available since forever. Yeah, that is a good question as well. I do wonder if maybe, like, they haven't said anything, but I wonder if they'll come out with a Boarding Actions, like, maybe they'll come out with free rules for Boarding Actions for 10th, because it would cause people to maybe be more likely to buy the big chunk of terrain that they sell for it, because they sell a terrain kit that's like $260 or something like that. So maybe they'll do that. I'm just hoping that very soon GW decides to put out an article about what they are planning on doing for Combat Patrol, because they teased it in one of the other articles about 10th edition. They were like, hey, look, they were talking about point sizes. And so they were talking about 1,000-point games, 2,000-point games, and 3,000-point games. And then there was like a little asterisk. And if you went down to the footnote thing, it's like, or maybe it said it later in the next paragraph or something like that. But they said, if you want to play 500-point games, it's not a good idea to play a normal 500-point game in 40K, because the rules are not set for it as the normal data sheets, right? But they were like, that's what Combat Patrol was for, because those data sheets have been tweaked to make the game still playable at those sizes, yada, yada. And then they said, and we'll have an article about Combat Patrol coming up soon here on Warhammer Community. And that was several weeks ago. I checked again this morning. And still, like, the newest article was about the Seraphon Army set. Excuse me. But they haven't posted an article yet for today. So at least they don't have one that's currently dated the 23rd. That is the 22nd, 21st, 21st. But they don't have a 23rd. This one is dated, 22 April 23. So anyway, maybe they will, during this show, release a new article about Combat Patrol. And then I'll be like, oh, yeah, look at that. So that happens. Let's see here. What else? Greetings from Switzerland. Never mind. I found a cinnamon bun. Ooh, that sounds fun. I wish my real name was Matt so I could start a terrain building stream called Gaming Mats. That's a good point. Hello from Argentina. Howdy. I love building fully rendered terrain boards, but storing them is problematic. It's true. You're not wrong. That's the biggest upside, obviously, to mats, is being able to transport them around and store them. I don't want to go crazy with gaming boards, so that's the other thing, too. And the other thing is also, I don't ever see, like, that 44 by 30 is the biggest one I probably will ever make. I mean, maybe a 3 foot by 3 foot, but that's probably technically a little smaller. I don't know. Square footage or inchage, whatever. It's maybe a bit smaller. Interested in getting into Combat Patrol? Don't play 40K at the moment. Should I wait for 10th edition to come out? It may not be the worst idea ever. And the reason is because we still don't know. So, okay. If the Combat Patrol box is a newer release, which is a little bit harder to figure out, but you might be able to do some internet sleuthing to figure out like if you're looking at a Combat Patrol box, figure out when it came out. I have a suspicion that some of the older boxes will get replaced sort of soon, but we don't know that yet. Tyranids probably will get replaced, I suspect, because like we said, their Tyranids are getting a bunch of new models. I would not be surprised if they also came out with a special Combat Patrol box that had Terminators in it, because they'll be releasing Terminators in, like, from what we know, the new launch box is going to be new Tyranids and Terminators, new Terminators. They're going to be slightly taller and all that stuff. But if you're like I've been working on Death Watch, which is not a particularly new one, but it's not a particularly old one either. What's those other guys? The Astra Militarum, that's a pretty new box. Leagues of Votan's a pretty new box. So it's highly unlikely they're going to mess with those, but some of the older ones, like we were talking about the Necrons before, that box is pretty old, and it has a flyer in it. So I don't know. We'll see. If they were smart, this is what they would do. They would write stats for even the old ones as well, that are out there, and then replace them, and then just make it so you could play either. Because if they're just all of a sudden like, oh yeah, you can't play Combat Patrol with this because we've replaced the box, that's just bad. That's just a bad idea. You know what I mean? There are going to be stores that are going to still have it on the shelves. There are going to be people who already have that stuff or prefer it. I mean, it just makes sense to be like, well, you can either run this or this for Tyranids, whether you want to run the old models or the new models. I mean, that would make sense, but we'll see. That 2x2 green foam board takes texture well. Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. My conundrum with Combat Patrol is that I have a lot of components from Drukhari, Eldari, and Space Wolves. However, I love the idea of the one box and ready to go. I'll be saving money with the box. I mean, if you have a bunch of the stuff, though, and you just need to buy like one thing to make it turn into that box, well, then that's probably, I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know if you'd want to, unless you want to go through and repaint everything because you want to do new paint jobs on stuff. Like, I've got a friend who, like, he has the Drukhari, the Dark Eldar box, all of it done, except there's like one unit in there that of like 3 or 5 things that he does not have. So he's like, well, those I got to buy and paint and add in there, but then boom, I'm done. And I got another friend who's an Eldar player, and he looked at the box. He's like, I have all of this ready to go. This is all like, you know, so he's been playing for a long time, so he's ready to go. But yeah, I think that's a benefit too for people who've been playing for a while. Now, if you've been playing for a while, to be perfectly frank, Combat Patrol maybe isn't necessarily targeted towards you. I'm not saying you can't play it. I'm just saying, like, I've had some people in the comments are like, well, if there's no list building, I think I'm going to get pretty bored playing this. And I'm like, well, I guess if you play 2-3 times a week, yeah, but I don't know that it's aimed towards those people. It's aimed towards getting people into the hobby or getting people back into Warhammer, not the hobby. Well, I mean, it's a little bit aimed at getting people into the hobby, also into Warhammer. They are separate. Well, technically Warhammer is part of the hobby. And anyway, yeah, I've had that discussion a couple of times in the comments as well since Friday. But no, it is a situation of, if you're already a person who has a 2,000 point army, you're probably just going to keep doing that. But if you want to try something new, if you're like, oh, I'm kind of interested in Black Templar, okay, well then you buy a Black Templar box and then you maybe play that with your friends, see what you think about it, and then maybe start building from there. That's their idea, I'm sure. So, you know. What space battle games include rules that enable mobile suits and make them in any way different from starfighters? I have no idea. I've not come across anything like that. I have a friend that refers to the Dark Eldar as the Drew Carey. I get you. It was funny the first 3 times. Was it, though? Maybe like the first 2. I don't know. I once wrote flying rules for winged Blood Bowl miniatures, and it was fun, but complete lunacy. Flying Blood Bowl miniatures would be pretty lunacy. Yeah, it would be bad. I'll take a stab at Combat Patrol, but not buying any new minis. Pretty sure I have the equivalent of multiple Combat Patrol boxes for a few factions already. See, that's the benefit as well. You know what I mean? I think. Because then again, you just download the rules and then play with the stuff you got. I'm sure that people will also just download the rules and then 3D print a bunch of like proxy type stuff. they'll be like, oh, I'm kind of interested in, you know, I don't know, whatever. And then they've got models that will work as that. Like the, Arch Villain Patreon, the sci-fi tier that they do last month? I think it was March. Had these really cool, like, kind of almost sort of spooky looking kind of like guard. They kind of looked like Deathcore of Krieg, but spookier and kind of, frankly, a little bit cooler. I could easily see taking a bunch of those and turning them into a, Astra Militarum Combat Patrol and just print stuff out and then use the rules that you want and play with your friends. You know, it'd be cool. Maybe, just maybe, the boarding action rules are part of the basic 10th edition in the big book. Boy, that'd be smart if they would, I tell you. Let's see here. Zambies, how you doing? Hail from Newfoundland, Canada. Hope you're having a good stream. So far, so good. I'm still using household items for terrain. If I have money to spend, it goes on minis. I do like terrain quite a bit, though. I really like the way it looks. You know what I mean? DJ Todd P. Harris, how you doing? Still doubtful of pulling the trigger on 10th edition, let alone a lot of GW products. Love the detail of the minis, but their constant change of rules is annoying. You know, and that's the benefit, too. I've had people say, like, well, but I don't know if I'm not sure if I'm interested, you know? So even though I can get the rules for Combat Patrol for free, I'm just not sure if I want to buy one of those boxes. And I even said it in the video, I think on Friday, well, you know, those models will work in other games too. So you could then switch back to Grimdark Future Firefight or Grimdark Future, or, you know, you could use them in Space Station Zero if you wanted to, potentially. There's like all kinds of options. That's the big benefit of miniatures, is you can use them in all kinds of different games. Article is set for today. Article for today is due 7 p.m. Central. Oh, no kidding. Huh. Sunday features next week's pre-orders. Well, that's not very exciting. I think if Combat Patrol is a success, the G-Dubs may do a similar thing for Age of Sigmar. I think they'd be sort of dumb not to. I mean, if it works, then yeah, I would think it would make sense. Let's see. Started with Rogue Trader, but I couldn't get anyone to participate. Wasn't until 2nd edition I could convince my buddies to get into it. Rogue Trader was a bit of an ask. That book was crazy. Like that, like, you know what I mean? Like I have our GW did recreations of that book and a couple others more than a couple years back. And I bought the Rogue Trader one and the Realm of Chaos one, and they are crackers. Like it is, yeah, my goodness. Check out Mel, the Terrain Tutors videos on how to make gaming mats that you can roll up using canvas, sheet, and caulk. Sure. I think each half of the starter box will have Combat Patrol rules too. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. That would not be a dumb idea. That would be smart. They would, like, if you buy the big, 10th edition starter box, if they were smart, they'd be like, look, here's Combat Patrol rules that use this, and this, and this. I mean, it probably wouldn't use the entirety of both sides of the box, but maybe. But yeah, no, that'd be a smart move too, because then that way you could, you'd be able to double dip, and it would be a value add for your reason why you'd buy that big box. Makes sense. Is there a secondary market for old codices? I'm kind of tired of having them, but I do love the lore and the artwork. I mean, people sell them sometimes. Depends on how old they are. If they get to be real old, then sometimes they go up in price a little bit on eBay. But for the most part, if you're like selling like last versions codex, people are like, yeah, I've got that too, or whatever. It depends. You can, eBay's probably the best place to look. Hi there from Portugal. Nice weather to strip paint from secondhand finds for mid-late Warflames War. Well, there you go. Good morning from Australia. You've mentioned scratch building terrain in a couple of videos. Is this an area you could see yourself making videos on? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I still like plastic kits generally as well. And sometimes I like to mix things a little bit too, but I have some ideas for some stuff. I've got some bits and pieces laying around that I've like got ideas for. I'm kind of a big fan of sort of mixing things too, not just completely from like not necessarily completely from scratch building something, but like taking maybe resin pieces, like resin walls from some company. ArmorCast is a company that I own a whole bunch of stuff from. I don't even know if they're in business anymore. I think they might be, but I've bought over the years tons of different resin pieces from them, like ruined walls and this and that, and then take those and then cut out a piece of MDF for a base, and then like maybe put in some flooring with coffee stick stirrer things that are wood and all that kind of jazz, and kind of mix things together so I'm not having to sculpt everything necessarily from hand, or else using, again, 3D printed pieces and then also adding to that even plastic kits. I backed at the beginning of 2022, I backed this Kickstarter from Archon Studios, and they made a bunch of cool plastic modular terrain. Well, there were 4 different types of terrain in there, and 3 of them I was kind of like, no, I don't. But there was a 4th version, which was called City Ruins, which I thought was amazing. So I bought into that, and I have built 9 different ruins pieces out of that kit, and then I also based each one of them with a piece of MDF and put texture on them. I primed them last fall, and I've been airbrushing them and kind of messing with them a little bit in my airbrush room over the course of the winter. They're not done yet, but they're getting closer and closer to that being done. And then, yeah, they're going to be great. And I've got some more of that stuff too. Actually, a viewer, Rodney, sent me some of the stuff as well, and I want to use that stuff the stuff that he sent me to build like 2 big ones. Like I've got 9 small ruins. I want to build 2 big ones potentially as well out of the stuff in there. That same company made that walker, that kind of like weird World War II sort of looking like walker that I showed in the stuff that I brought back from Adepticon video, my Adepticon booty video a couple weeks back. I want to take one of those and use that as part of the terrain too. Like it like crashed into the building, like after it fell over or something like that. But yeah. So 9 of those are ready to go, but they're sitting on custom bases, and they're painted up, but they're not fully painted up yet. They're getting there. I got to start airbrushing the insides. Like the outsides are, as far as airbrushing is concerned, the outsides are basically done. The insides though now need, I like my ruins to have like if you were to ruin a house, the outside would be the outside color and the inside would be like the walls painted and stuff like that. And so frequently you see, here's a ruin and the inside and the outside are the same color. I'm like, well, that must have been boring to live in, or whatever. So I just haven't got to that part yet. What size board do you think Combat Patrol will use? I think that they've said, I think that it's the 44 by 30. I'm pretty sure. I think they've said that. It's not 22 by 40 or 22 by 30. It's not a kill team or a Warcry size. I think it's the same size as what they call Incursion, which is 1,000 points. So it's basically like 2 Warcry or kill team boards stuck side by side. So it's, instead of being 22 by 30, it's 44 by 30. That's the size that Combat Patrol is supposed to be using. I was at Salute and bought the Planet 28 rulebook. Nice. And my Planet 28 rulebook is over there. I can't reach it though. Let's see here. Home Depot has corrugated plastic sheet in 3 foot by 6 foot and 4 foot by 8 foot sheets. Cut them in half for 3 foot by 3 foot and 4 foot by 4 foot. Great for gas lamps with vinyl game mats. Corrugated plastic sheet. Is that like corrugated, like a corrugated box where it's got those little wavy things on the inside, but everything's all plastic? That's interesting. I've not come across that stuff before. I mean, I've seen it for like yard signs and things like that, but I've never seen it just like we don't have a Home Depot. Next town over does though. I don't care as much for the getting into 40K part of Combat Patrol as a gaming variant, but it gives me many an option for quick and small games. Yeah, that's a benefit for me as well, I think. Yeah. The only game I can think of that has space fighters and mobile suits was DreamPod 9. Having trouble calling what it was called. Jovian Chronicles? maybe? It was like stuff that was happening out near Jupiter, right? Is that what I think? Because I had a friend who was big into that stuff. It was Tribe 8 was one of the games that DreamPod 9 put out. I think it was Jovian Chronicles, but that was more of an RPG. I don't think it was a miniature game. Obviously, they do Heavy Gear as well. That's their most well-known game. Let's see here. Any update on the approximate expected release date for Snarling Badger's next offering? If everything works out well, it'll come out just before TMX. So it'll come out on the 2nd, Friday the 2nd of June. That's the plan. I have been working on layout. All the pages are now, like, we know how many pages it is. All the text is laid down. And now it's just going through and, embellishing and art and this and that and the other thing, all that stuff. But yeah, that's what I've worked on basically all week when I'm not sleeping or making videos and or streaming. And I'll be working on it again today, the rest of the evening. And Vince and I have a meeting on Sunday nights usually. So we're going to go over a bunch of stuff, and then I'll just continue to keep working the rest of this week on it. The hope is to the hope is to send it off to the printer on May 1st, which is not Monday, but the next Monday. So, yeah, I think that we should be fine with that. Greetings from Chile. How you doing? You're looking forward to the new Middle-earth strategy battle game announcements for Warhammer Fest. Nice. Let's see here. Would you say the most useful piece of terrain you could make? What do you say is the most useful piece of terrain you could make or buy? I would say, well, if you have the storage space for it, I think that a nice board is important. If you don't, and you're just going to use a mat, which is fine, because it does store a lot better than a big board, then the next piece is probably going to be nice. I mean, that's a hard question because there's so many different ways to set up your board. Are you doing forest? Are you doing urban? Are you doing, specifically, if you're doing more wilderness, I could definitely see there being like, it would make a lot of sense to have like really nice hills maybe that match like your mat. I'm a big fan of trying to make stuff match a little bit too, because otherwise it just looks like a bunch of stuff sat on top of a mat. So I try to match colors, which then of course limits how many of your mats you can use these pieces of terrain on sometimes, but you can get creative with it sometimes and make it work. Let's see here. The bring and buy hall at UK Games Expo is Nirvana for buying and selling old gaming books. That makes sense. Sure. Hello from South Africa. How you doing? Good morning from Southern Illinois. I love scratch building terrain and adding bits from other kits to add for details. I'm seriously eyeing up that boarding action terrain now. A lot of that stuff comes in the Kill Team boxes that have come out too. It's fine. I'll be honest, the part of me doesn't like it because I don't like there being lots of really tight choke points in my gaming. Like something like Space Hulk, that's a different story. Like the game is built around that. But like Kill Team is not, kind of, you know what I mean? So they had to write special rules and for, cover and things like that. And I just, I don't know. They're cool looking. Don't get me wrong. Great for photography, but just for gaming, I don't like them as much. But to be fair, I haven't played boarding actions because I haven't. But yeah. Let's see here. Once you play on a great table, it's real. Yeah, yeah. Let's see here. I have enough old orcs, space marines, and chaos marines from 2nd edition to build new armies, at least 60 models each. Am I insane? I don't know. Menards also carries corrugated plastic? Really? Huh. Don't forget that sheet PVC foam that you can get from DIY stores and online makers makes good boards and bases for terrain. Sheet PVC foam. I don't know what that is. I'll have to take a look. Planning a set of Venice tiles for Carnivale I picked up at Salute. Lots of grotty waterways and peeling plaster. Nice. The Menards I was in yesterday had the corrugated plastic signboard material with the clear acrylic and polycarbonate sheet material. I have bought plexiglass from Menards in the past because I bought some because someone was like, it never warps. Like you could glue so much stuff onto it and it won't warp. Sometimes, especially thinner MDF, if you put a lot of glue on there for texture and all that stuff, everything like that, as it dries, it will sometimes kind of warp a little bit. And you've probably used pieces of terrain before that don't quite lay flat on the table because they've warped. And when you glue stuff to plexiglass, it does not warp. The downside is you have to glue it with CA glue and then paint over it and stuff like that. If you put a piece of terrain on a piece of clear, like I know that GW does this, I've been seeing it at tournaments and stuff like that. They'll put a building and then they'll have like a specific like rectangle that the building sits in, and then that counts as area terrain. I don't like it. Now, they also don't glue them to that. They just set the terrain on top of it, and then, that stuff moves around a little bit. But if you try to glue stuff to plastic, especially clear plastic, and use CA glue, it'll get all cloudy around where the glue cures. I don't know if you can use plastic cement on plexiglass. That's a good question. I'm not sure. But yeah, I do. I have bought, like I said, I bought plexi before, like a 20 by 30 piece from Menards in the past, but it was quite some time. Speaking of Kickstarters, thought about the new Cool Mini or Not Zombicide and decided to pass as there's not interested in the samurai lore. Yeah. Yeah. Good boards make good immersion. That's true. I think that's true. Can you buy entry into TMX at the door this year? Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's actually no real way to sign up online. Like we're not that big. Yeah, you just walk in and buy a badge. It's a very, very, very small convention. We'll be lucky if we hit 100 people. It probably won't happen. It's great for supporting a bigger table at Adepticon so the sheet or mat doesn't have a bulge in the middle where the tables meet. Oh, sure, that makes sense. Yeah, I could see that. Good point. Obscuring terrain is really important. I like the terrain that was that has like a footprint with removable pieces, like an acrylic sheet with rubble or a flat oval with trees. Yeah, I mean, that definitely has a benefit to specifically competitive play because now you have a very specific idea of where everything is. But I don't sometimes like the look of it as much. I don't know. But then again, I'm not playing competitively, so. Do you have a favorite company for wargaming mats or material? I don't know if I have a favorite company. I have a tendency to prefer, even though it's got that like, like the pattern on it, I kind of prefer the mousepad material stuff over vinyl. I've got some vinyl mats and they're not great. I do also have, there was this company years ago that made a really great product and then could not keep up with demand and then eventually went out of business because of reasons. But it was a company called Zuzzy, Zuzzy, and they made rubber mats that were textured. Not painted, but they were textured. You could paint them yourself with acrylics and stuff like that. It worked great. But yeah, they had some really great mats. They had some real butt ugly ones too, but they had some really great mats that were like it was like it was like the mix of both worlds because you rolled it up like a normal gaming mat, but it was physically textured and sculpted. You could see little bricks and like all kinds of stuff like that, and it was really great stuff. And luckily I bought a asphalt kind of like urban-y one that was like 4x6. And I'm thinking now about cutting it down into maybe, let's see, if it was a 4x6, that's 48 by 6 is 50, right? 50 inches is No, 72 inches is 6 feet. So 48 by 72. Is that right? Because I could probably get a couple of well, I could get a 3x3, and could I get a 3x3 and a 44 by 30 out of it? I'll have to do the math, but yeah, I am thinking about cutting it up just because I don't need a 4x6 anymore, and it would be really nice to have just for different stuff. So that'd be kind of cool. It's I wish that that company was still in business because they made some great stuff. And I'm glad I was able to order at least one mat before they went out of business. Any chance you could get someone else to film some game demos during TMX for those of us overseas to catch some of the action? Like live stream? I don't know that we'll be able to do any live streaming. I've never had any good luck with trying to do live streaming from TMX before. I think there's something going on. I think they're port blocking something in with the Wi-Fi at the university. Starting to think that that I could do with some palette cleansing models. Well, that's, yeah, I can understand that. I like how Combat Patrol is using vehicles. I've been interested. I hope I can use my Space Marine ATV. That thing has no real point in 40K, but gosh darn, I love it. I don't think that, well, I mean, because it's not in the current Space Marine box, right? Like the vehicle that's in the Space Marine, the current Space Marine Combat Patrol is I think it's called the Impulsor. I keep calling it the Flying El Camino, but there's the Repulsor, which is the original floating tank that they came out with when the Primaris came out, and it's covered in guns, and it's super cool. The Impulsor is not covered in guns, and it kind of has a small little truck bed in the back, kind of like what was it? Was it the Datsun Brat, or was that a Toyota Brat, or the El Camino, like that? But I don't know about, I don't know that they'll, like I said, there's no army building in Combat Patrol. You buy a Combat Patrol box, and that's your army, or you already have the stuff, and then you don't have to buy the box. But you build an army that is the stuff that's in the box, and that's the army. Any tips on using contrast paint? Thinking about making the dive. I think contrast paint works best when you use a Zenithal Prime. So you're going to prime your model black and then spray it from above with white or potentially gray if you're into that, maybe. You can also use dry brush to do that. You could use rattle can to do that. I've made a couple of videos about doing Zenithal Prime, but just priming a model white and then just hitting it with a bunch of contrast, I don't think that looks very good. It's better, I think, if you have that like white to black fade. You've got the top of the head and the top of the shoulders and all that kind of stuff is basically white, but down underneath the arm, it gets into darkness and stuff like that. And then when you put that transparent color over it, it looks like it goes from light blue down to dark blue, or light green to, whatever. For sure. Let's see here. Hope you're having a good weekend. Sorry I missed the irregular stream yesterday. I was kind of out of it yesterday. I understand that. Hello from Ecuador. How you doing? Sheet PVC. I just saw a thing. Dang it. Sheet PVC can be called Sintra. Oh, Sintra. Yeah. Actually, I have some Sintra. I didn't know that they sold that at like home stores. Huh. That's kind of interesting. I'm going to put that in my little notepad so I can look at it later. Sintra, Palite, and Palram. Those are all fun names. Cool. Let's see here. Palram is especially stiff and strong. Interesting. You should definitely look into YouTube vids for expanded PVC foam boards. Yeah, like I said, I think I own some Sintra. I came across a video and a guy was talking about it, and I was like, oh, cool. And I went online and ordered some. And that's because it's better than, especially if you're building your own ruins from scratch, it's way better than foam core. Because foam core it's okay and it's inexpensive, and this stuff is not cheap, but it's not crazy expensive either. But this stuff is a lot sturdier. So yeah, for sure. For thin MDF that may warp, add a layer of PVA glue or Mod Podge to the bottom. Yeah, that can sometimes work too. If you put stuff on the top, you want to put stuff on the bottom as well, and then it'll kind of even out. That's true. Good thing about Zombicide is that there's a themed version of that game for literally everyone. I mean, it seems like it, yeah. Super glue works great on sheet PVC too. Yeah, that's the thing that I watched that from. Well, what is he? He doesn't use super glue, does he? I've watched Adam Savage use Sintra as well. He uses something that he's got like in a can that's got like a little dauber on the end. You unscrew the cap and you just gonna burp, and then it glues real fast. Might be contact cement. I don't remember. Plastic cardboard is called Coroplast. It's great for covering closets and pantries, wireframe shelving. Oh, that makes sense. Sure, so stuff doesn't fall through. Man, I missed out on Zuzzy mats. Yeah, they were pretty cool. Anyone know how to flatten mousepad mats? I bought a 4x4. It was shipped folded, and it just won't lay flat. I tried laying heavy books on it, didn't help. Worried that ironing would ruin it. That's weird. Because I've also gotten like 3x3 or 4x4, and they've been folded, and then I just roll them up and store them someplace, and they usually fix themselves that way. How are you offering classes at TMX? We're going to try to do we're going to probably have to sell separately. This week, I'm going to meet with the lady at the university where the convention is going to be held, because I need to figure out how many spaces there are in the classroom. And then I'm working with Vince and Sam and I think Ninjon as well to figure all that out. So yeah, it's on its way. Subaru, that's what it was. The Subaru Brat. That's what that little vehicle is called. Hey, Uncle Adam, do you have a solution for storing things with the grass tufts on them? I have a number of unit boards for ice and fire, but can't find a way to store them that doesn't crush the tufts. No, I don't like to use tufts because of that very reason. Not on terrain. I'll use them on the base of a model, like, on the base, because then the base never really gets pressed up against anything. Do I have anybody here with a... Like this guy here has got some tufts on him on his base, but it's okay. You can kind of see them between his legs because that's not going to ever get squished this way, right? But yeah, so that's why I don't like to ever put tufts on gaming boards like that, because yeah, then if you can't store them on there. I mean, I don't want to ever generally ever store them on that side if I can help it anyway, but yeah. The Primaris buggy has Mario Kart M41 vibes, and I kind of love it. I get that. Someone needs to start a company called Matt's Metal Mats. Ooh, there you go. Home stores can order and ship it to you. No kidding. Sentra is sold as ceiling tiles at big box stores. Huh. Which truck had the back-facing seats in the bed? That might have been the Subaru Brat. I bought a 5-foot length of 4-inch plastic plumbing pipe. That's fun to say. And hung it under a closet shelf. I drape all my mats over the pipe so they hang without creasing. That makes sense. That's a good idea. Sentra can be shaped if you add a little heat to it. Oh, wow. PVC cement, probably? It could be. Combat Patrol sounds a bit like Kings of War Ambush. Maybe? I don't think I'm super crazy familiar with Kings of War Ambush. I mean, I know what Kings of War is. Kings of War Vanguard is basically a skirmish game where the models don't need to stay like kind of in squads and stuff like that, but I don't know a lot about Ambush. Currently working on a Battletech diorama with mechs printed at 200% size. Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I watched that video that Midwinter Minis, that's his name. He posted a video recently where he built, he didn't build it, he painted, well, I guess he built it kind of, but it was 3D printed. But he mainly painted this big honkin', it's a Battletech Atlas, but it was scaled to be 28 millimeter scale. So it was, I don't know, maybe 2 feet tall, maybe a little bit under, maybe 20 inches instead of 24. It was pretty big though. It was FDM printed, so it did have some sort of ridges and things like that. It wasn't. There were some parts that were a little janky, like not great, but not too bad. He did some work on trying to flatten things out and smooth things a bit, but I don't know. It was kind of cool though. Look, especially once he put it at the very end. Unfortunately, it took till the very end, but he like set it next to a bunch of other stuff that the size of, so you could get the scale. He set it next to like some Space Marines and stuff. He set it next to, I think, an Imperial Knight, and then later on he put it in front of his, I think, Warlord Titan, and it's a considerable bit smaller than a Warlord Titan for sure, but those things are crazy huge. Hair dryer for the mouse mat, maybe? Oh, to get the wrinkles out? Yeah, maybe. You can use moss for the board. It's squishy. Yeah, but I would think eventually it would tear, wouldn't it, maybe? Like that, like lichen kind of stuff or whatever? I don't know. Dodge Pioneer and the Subaru Brat both had aftermarket rear-facing truck bed seats. Nice. Did you ever do a video about project goals and the many different approaches on the topic in general? Would love to hear your take in some length. Project goals. I guess I don't know. Like, what do you mean exactly? Or what? I don't know. I don't know that I'm quite understanding. I did do a video relatively recently about, it's not a bad idea to try to keep your ideas, your plans to yourself a little bit, because psychologically, it seems that when you talk about a plan a bunch, you get the endorphins from talking about the plan and people going, oh, that's a cool thing, that you should do that. Yeah. And then that doesn't necessarily make you do it. Whereas if you don't talk about the thing, then you get the endorphins at the end when it's finished and people are like, hey, check that out. And you're like, oh, that's great. And so there was a study done about, like, if you told people about stuff versus just did it and then told people about stuff, if you tell people about what you're going to do before you do it, then you're slightly less likely to do it because you've already gotten the endorphins or dopamine or whatever, the happy juice. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about or if it's something else. The old Armorcast company did a few 28 millimeter mechs, an Atlas, and a Mad Cat and a Vulture. Armorcast did a lot of crazy stuff. Yeah, I own a bunch of their stuff. I bought a big lot of it years and years ago. And I've started taking some of that stuff actually and putting it to use finally, which is also fun. That Atlas might rival the Cthulhu from Cthulhu Made Dead. I don't know. He's real big and solid too, because he's not 3D printed. Like he's a heavy bugger. I got a friend that painted one of them for a client as a commission painter, and yeah, he had a picture on his Instagram of it, and he just had it. He was like sitting in an office chair, and he just had this thing on his lap, and he was just like holding it by one hand and like airbrushing it, and it was like having a toddler sit on your lap. It's massive. That big thing about that big giant Cthulhu from that game. Hey, Adam/chat, any recommendations for masking relatively fine details for airbrushing? Some people swear by poster putty, some say liquid mask. I'm a little lost. If you want straight lines, I probably wouldn't use poster putty. If you don't want straight lines, you just want to make sure that stuff doesn't hit certain spots, I would actually tell you to go look for silly putty. Poster putty will work as well, but silly putty is a little bit easier to shape, frankly, especially in like small fine areas. There's a lot of people use silly putty, like go to the dollar store, they come in a little plastic egg, it's a little half and half, you pop it open. But yeah, silly putty, a lot of people use silly putty for masking in airbrushing. If you want sharp lines, sometimes you can use a Post-it note. Sometimes, other times I would tell you to probably try to look into the stuff that airbrushers use. It's designed for people who airbrush two-dimensional things usually, but it's called frisket film, which is like Frisket. I think it's ET, frisket film. I've used that to make stencils before for, custom stuff and things like that. It works out pretty well. El Drondorio also says try silly putty. Yep. What's your take on Vince's video about not wanting to enter Golden Demon in the foreseeable future? I think he's dead on. I don't think it's a particularly good contest because uh, the judging is real squirrely. Like you don't know as a painter, like what am I being judged on? You're also not getting any feedback at all, which that's the whole point to enter painting competitions is that later on, like if you're a good judging crew, it's kind of your job after the award ceremony for people to come up and go, so what should I have done better? Or what, what do you think? And then that person goes, okay, well, this is, I think you need to do this and practice this and blah, blah. But there's none of that in Golden Demon, which is a real bummer. So yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of, painting competitions to begin with. Like, I don't like, I'm going to enter one this year and I'm forcing myself to do it. And I don't want to, frankly, but I'm going to give it a try and I'll probably do it once and be like, okay, cool. I did that. Kind of like that time that I spent $5 on a slot machine in Vegas. I mean, okay, I've gambled in Vegas now. Great. But yeah, I don't know. I think I mean, he's not against painting competitions. Like he is a judge for Resin Beast and what else? He judges, I think, one of the different categories at Nova Open, and maybe other ones as well. He judges other things too. But yeah, Golden Demon is, it's Golden Demon, but it is so opaque as to how things are handled or how you're supposed to do things or any kind of, and I can understand him and other people not being interested. Darnak says project goals is in the sense of how you approach your hobby projects. Do you plan ahead for one massive goal or many small steps? Do you embrace your hobby butterfly or skip between projects? I see. I mean, there are times when you generally, for the way that I do it, is it's dependent on, because I'm painting for tabletop, generally like stuff to put on I'm generally like, I want to have this stuff ready to start playing soon, so I'm going to put it towards the top of the line. Like currently what I'm painting is my Death Watch Combat Patrol because I want to be able to have them ready to go. And then after that I'll probably do the Astra Militarum, the Imperial Guard. Like I've started building those models. I've already built the Armored Sentinel and I built one of the gun emplacements. There's like extra dudes kind of standing around. I got to build, I think, one more of those extra dudes and then that one will be done. But then I got to build the other gun and then there's the command squad and then 20 other guys. So it's going to take me some time, but I'm working on it now when I have the chance. Like lately I haven't had any outside hobby time because I've been working on doing the layout for the new game. But in June, then I'll be back at that probably. Maybe sometime in May, maybe. Anyway, that's a good question. I mean, I don't have like a Kanban board or anything like that. I know there are some people that use like enterprise style tools or whatever, or something along those lines that they would use at work to then say, okay, well, this needs to be done by this week. And then this I can do, those Gantt charts and all that stuff. And I don't go quite that fancy, but it's not a bad idea for a video. Yeah. I have an old armor cast Tyranid vehicle I was trying to sell. Nice. I had a friend who had I think it was like a Chaos like Warhound basically that was from or was it? Yeah, I think it was Chaos. It was a Chaos Warhound from Armorcast like way back in the day that he was trying to sell quite frequently. I had an Armorcast Warhound Titan, but sold it. There you go. I don't think Silly Putty is available over here, but Hobby Brands has the same thing, but expensive. Yeah. I mean, you might be able to get it from Amazon, something like that. A lot of modelers use Frisket. I've been using it originally it was designed for airbrushing 3-dimensional or 2-dimensional stuff. Like I need to make sure that the spray doesn't go up here and here, but I need to do this and stuff. And so that's why it's clear partially. So you can lay it over a design, cut it out, peel it, stick it, all that stuff. I used Frisket in college actually, because I did, I forget what class it was, a composition class. And we had to like copy a master. So you had to find some, painting or whatever, and then copy it. And I did I copied the Bombing of Guernica by Picasso, but I used airbrush, like pen and ink and airbrush. Now that painting is, I don't know, it's like 40 or 50 feet long. It's absolutely massive. Mine's only about maybe, I don't know, 2 feet. But I don't know, my parents got it framed and it still hangs in my mom's condo, which I think is kind of weird. But anyway, so yeah, that's where I first learned about Frisket film. And then all of a sudden one day I was like, wait, I bet I could use that on 3-dimensional stuff as long as it's maybe got like a flat area. And I was painting rhinos, and I wanted to have on the doors on the back that pop, they open up on the top, you know, I wanted to have some like some crosses, like, you know, like, because I was painting Black Templar, and so I wanted to put some stuff up there, and so I did that, and that worked out pretty well. And then I also have a Cricut machine, and I've used that now to cut out stencils and then spray on the side of stuff. But it's not, you can't, it's not good stuff to put on a curve, not very easily, at least I've found. But Frisket film is pretty cool. Does GW care if you proxy models that they make? I hate the Drakari Archon, but they have a made-to-order Laman that I'm interested in. I don't know why I care. I don't play tournaments. If you don't play tournaments, then you can do whatever you want. Absolutely. Yeah. If you go to tournaments, then the tournament organizer generally has rules about what you can and can't do as far as what models you use, what rules you're going to use for the tournament, all that kind of stuff. And that stuff you have to pay attention to because it's their event. Whether it's a official GW event or just something being run by your local store or whatever. But when you and your friends play, proxy away. Do whatever you like, you know? There's nothing wrong with that. Vince's video, spot on. I agree. Let's see here. Have fun. I must cut grass. Boo. That's no fun. If you use liquid mask, buy the latex mask for beauty treatments. It's the same stuff, but it's way cheaper. I've never tried liquid mask, I don't think. Golden Demon has been held up as the ultimate painting competition for so long. People believe it is. I think there needs to be an independent high-level competition run by high-level painters. I mean, Crystal Brush used to be kind of like that, but it got kind of weird. That was always at Adepticon. And it was like open to any kind of models you wanted, but this over time, basically the same people just kept winning it every time. And it was always like a team of modelers would build this big, huge, completely from scratch construction, like diorama, and then one person would paint it, and then that they would win. And it was always kind of the same thing over and over again. So I can see that being a problem. I really like the competition at Nova. The Capital Palette is spectacular because it's also open. You can paint whatever you want. It doesn't have to be GW stuff. It can be whatever you want. And they also have apprentice, journeyman, and master levels. So it's almost like 3 competitions. It's really great. Yeah, it's funny about how like basically the best of the best of the best of the best you can do at a Golden Demon is you can win a sword from the mall or whatever. You know what I mean? Like we're talking about, yeah, the Slayer sword is not like, it's great. I mean, it's great that you won a sword. Now you got to figure out what to do with it, I guess, or whatever. But Sam won first place in the Resin Beast competition, which is made by Creature Caster, and he won $2,000. So, you know, I would rather take $2,000 over a sword from the mall, personally. But I know that's you know, not necessarily what other people are looking for. I mean, at least it's not Ninja Stars from the mall. I guess that's a benefit. Let's see here. Got here way late. Apologies if this has been talked about. I'm looking for good suggestions for water effect brands. Basing is my kryptonite, and I'm determined to get decent at it. The one thing that I've been seeing a lot of people liking to use lately for water effects is UV resin. So there's different types of resin. There's resin that you just pour it and you wait for it to dry, I guess. I don't know how that stuff works exactly. But there's also UV resin where you pour a little bit of it and you shine a UV light on it and then it cures very quickly. You can buy UV resin for modeling from different companies, but the stuff is expensive. But evidently, and I found this out just recently, also if you search for UV reactive resin For jewelry making, you can buy the same stuff for way cheaper because it's not for modelers. It's the same stuff, but it's just like, instead of being marketed to modelers who are like, hey, you're interested in paying $60 for a model, how about $10 for a little bottle of UV resin? The people who make jewelry are not prepared to spend that amount of money, so you can buy a bigger bottle for a lot less money. And so I would take a look at I don't know, maybe Amazon, or maybe if you've got a craft place near you that does like jewelry stuff, you can usually find UV resin there. That stuff is, when it cures, it's almost always glossy, so you could use it to like put it like on a base to make it look like wet mud and stuff like that after, and then hit it with the light, and then it will cure and not like run all over. Part of like non-UV resin, part of the problem is, as it cures and takes time to do that, it can kind of like move around and stuff like that. But this stuff, you nuke it with the UV and it will, or take it outside in the sun, it will harden up real quick, and then it's not going anywhere. So take a look into that potentially. I cannot approach this hobby as a competitive pursuit. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that either. Does anyone here have plans to attend Gen Con in August? I do. Yep, I'm going. Any thoughts on yet another disappointing pre-order with the recent sellout of Lionel Johnson? Lionel. I had one on my cart and it disappeared. It was frustrating. It will come out. I'm 98% sure. Like, from what I understand, they can only have so many, but it's not a limited edition product, right? Like, from what I understand, like, you can still buy Gilliman today, Rabute Gilliman, whatever his name is. You can buy, like, I'm pretty sure Lionel Johnson will be available for years and years and years. It's just that the ones that they had set aside ready to go for launch, those sold out. But if everyone just hangs on a bit, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to buy one. Now, if it's a limited edition product and they say it's limited edition, that's a different story. But I don't think he's limited edition, so they'll have more in stock soonish, I'm assuming. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with their manufacturing, but it's something. I don't know. I think that the media has moved on from the idea about the global shipping crisis and all that kind of stuff, and we don't hear about it anymore. But I'm pretty sure that there's still a lot of that going on. So that's possibly a problem as well. Yeah, I think that's the case. I think that they're producing so much stuff right now that they can't produce as much as they would like of everything, because they keep just coming out, they come out with tons of stuff. It's just not very much of any of it. And that's their business model currently. So I don't know. But like I said, I'm 98% sure that Lionel Johnson will be available in probably a month or two or something like that. And then you can get one then. But yeah, there was a lot of people that were angry about that. What do you think about the larger scale minis, Adam? Have you painted 54 or 75 millimeter? And what was your experience? I haven't really. No, I never have. I generally do everything for gaming, so I've never like done display stuff that big before. Kanban flow is good for projects simply, but still complete. Nice. I used to own an armor cast Phantom, 3 Revenants and a Towering Destroyer. Only have 1 Revenant now. Wow. Let's see here. I haven't gone full project management, but I've started a spreadsheet of my unbuilt and unpainted. Helped with impulse buys, as I realized I had far more than I realized. Yeah, spreadsheets, if you're into that kind of thing, that's not a bad idea either. I have a stack of Frisket paper for some reason, not sure why. It's nice stuff to have, especially for airbrushing. Hello from St. Louis. How you doing? I got the old Epicast landing pad that I'm trying to make into a board. Just such a big piece. Yeah. Trick to uber sharp lines with Frisket masking is to apply the cut pattern Frisket and then repaint the base color of the stencil pattern edge. Then paint the stencil color. The base seals the badge. Huh. Or the edge, not the badge. It limits some painting competitions and gaming tournaments, but I love seeing different miniatures brands being used as proxies. Sure. I enjoy using my Cricut or Cricut. You know, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly. It sounds right. To cut out pieces for terrain, mostly greebles, but some doors. Oh yeah. No, definitely, it can be very good for that too. For like I've used chipboard. Like you save like the box that cereal comes in, right? You save that box and you kind of cut it up, and you have a sheet of that chipboard, and it's printed on one side and not printed on the other, and then you run that through your Cricut machine, and you cut shapes out. And the thing is that I being a computer graphics, whatever, graphic design nerd for years and years and years, I can lay out the shapes that I want in Illustrator and then import them into Cricut and make whatever I want. If you don't have that access, it's a lot harder to do that. So that's kind of a downside. But yeah, some sort of program where you can design that stuff, and you can cut cool panels that you might put on the sides of buildings and stuff like that. And then once you primer over it, it'll look like just more stuff. Or you could use wood or plastic and things like that too. But I've used cereal boxes before too. And you just have the printed side be the side that's out, and then the non-printed side be the side that's glued to the side of the piece of terrain, and it works out quite nice. The owner of my FLGS told me he's looking to close end of 2024, been open since 78. He'll be 80 by then. Sad, but at the same time, he deserves a rest. Well, yeah, for sure. I remember you said something about switching from Teespring to Fourth Wall for t-shirts and such. Can you elaborate on why you chose to switch? I've been unhappy with Teespring for a long time. Their website sort of stinks, like on my end of the stuff that I got to do. And Fourth Wall just has access to a lot more stuff. The website's a lot better. They haven't been cranking the prices up. Teespring started cranking the prices way up all of a sudden. Teespring has taken down some of my shirts kind of randomly for reasons I don't understand. Teespring also decided they wanted to get into NFTs for a while, and I was like, So the Snarling Badger store is Fourth Wall. So that's shop.snarlingbadger.com, and that's where you get your Rain in Hell and Space Station Zero merchandise. I will eventually launch the other store, but right now it's pretty much all layout for the new game right now. So yeah, but that's the plan though. But yeah, I would definitely check out Fourth Wall if you're looking to make your own store. Morning from Pittsburgh. Hope everyone's doing great at work and between trips, so I popped in for a minute. Well, good to see you, Lifeblader. I find for myself, competition is like a whetstone. Nebulous rules, however, are angry-making. Sure. The Slayer sword used to be made by a proper blacksmith in the 90s, but not anymore. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool then, I guess. But yeah, I don't think it is now these days. Winning any big painting competition gives the winner verifiable credibility and authority on the subject of mini painting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but $2,000 is pretty nice too. Yeah, I don't know. I know everybody wants to win the Slayer sword and wants to win Golden Demon and stuff like that because it is such a big, well-known thing, but the rules are so screwy these days, and no one knows, like, yeah, I don't know. I totally understand where Vince is coming from. Is that modeling UV resin the same that I use for my 3D printer? I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know that for sure. It's a good question. I think it's separate. I think it's different stuff. Let's see here. UV resin can be crystal clear. I'm going to try making windows with it. No, that'd be cool. I buy the UV resin in the jewelry section at the craft store. See, yeah. If you want UV resin, just buy 3D printer resin. You can get huge bottles for a lot. But I don't know if it's going to be as shiny and glossy. I don't know. That's a good question. I think that the stuff that you use for like miniatures and also for jewelry, I think that stuff is different. I don't think it's the same, but I could be wrong. I sold a couple of my Gaslands builds, technically making me a professional. See, there you go. Boom. Speaking of cleaning my model palette, thinking of delving into GW Drukhari for my Invasion Earth game as my Alien Invaders. Well, that sounds kind of fun. They do seem alien, for sure. Sunshine doesn't always work for a lot of folks. Yeah, I don't have any going on today, really. Even with my FLGS discount, the Combat Patrol boxes, which I will get a discount on, are still a better value. Pays to support your local shop. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, we've had, like, that's the thing, too, is that a lot of people are like, they'll go to the website, they'll go to the GW's website and say, oh, this is sold out, and it's a whole thing and everything like that. And your local, like, independent stockist, as it were, will probably be sitting on some. You know, like when the first round of like Cursed City sold out, and then everybody got angry about it because it had all of a sudden just disappeared off the website. Two of the local shops here in town both had several copies still for not years, but for months and months. And you could just go in and buy one at regular price, you know? So, yeah, always check your local shop. Don't just be like, oh, I'll buy it off the website. You check your local shop. If you have one. If you don't have one, then don't check your local shop because you don't have one, and that would be weird. You'd be walking around on the street being like that meme of John Travolta from Pulp Fiction. There you go. The Vallejo water effects style stuff is acrylic based, so it shrinks. The benefit is that you can color it with acrylic things like paint or ink. UV resin, you have to use alcohol inks to color. Interesting. Malev, how you doing? I use a UV lamp that looks like a small helmet. Interesting. Looking forward to Demon Ship from Black Site Studios. Such an interesting idea. Indeed. And Malev is right there. Let's see here. Hello from Poland. How you doing? I'm in construction and maintenance, and yes, supply chains still seem to be having issues. Normally, common stock items are still regularly out of stock. Yeah, I just think that news has moved on from it because it's not as interesting to talk about, but it's still happening quite a bit. Have you done the Zenithal slap chop method and not use black as an undercoat, but another darker color? I'm painting some Dark Angels, want to undercoat in dark green. Yeah, I've used very frequently. I will use, instead of black, I will use a color from Monument. It's a primer color from Monument Hobbies called Black Brown, and it's just a really super dark brown, but it gives a warmer kind of overall kind of vibe to it. I've also frequently used a brown rattle can from Krylon or from Rust-Oleum. Both of them have their own line of camouflage paint. So it comes in 6 different colors. I was originally hoping that it was going to be a one color can. You just sprayed on it and it made everything camouflage, but that's unfortunately not how it works. They make like black, dark brown, 2 different shades of tan, like a light and a dark, and 2 different shades of like a military kind of green, a light and a dark. I use those for terrain and stuff all the time. That big terrain project I was talking about before from Archon Studios, all those buildings were primed dark brown with a rattle can from Rust-Oleum, I think. But yeah, I've done that, and then use like, sometimes I use like white over the top of it. Sometimes I'll even use like a ivory over the top of it. I'm looking to warm everything up and then start doing my my contrast paints and jazz like that over the top of it. I've been doing Zenithal stuff for a long time. I mentioned, I think in Friday's video, about how like the first time that I ever painted Tau, I primed them all like a dark red, I think a red oxide auto primer color, and then I sprayed them from above with orange because I figured, well, that's where the highlight's going to land. And so yeah, that was an early Zenithal, probably 2008, maybe 2007 is when I did that. I use an app called Notion to track my plans for hobby projects, terrain and model painting. Nice. Subaru made the Brat. I really wanted one when I was a teenager. The problem partially is that as a Wisconsinite, whenever I see that word, not Subaru, but the other one, I always want to say Brat, which is short for bratwurst. So, and now I kind of want a Brat. Let's see here. Happy Sunday, hobby friends. How you doing, Jim Crimmins? I use Inkscape to produce vinyl paint masks on my Silhouette vinyl cutter. Great for airbrush masks. Yeah, I use Illustrator just because it's what I've been using for years, and I pay for the Illustrator. Well, I pay for an Adobe thingy for work, and but yeah, being able to like design your own thing and then cut it out and frisk it and then airbrush it on the side of a rhino or on the side of a piece of terrain or something like that, I think is a lot of fun. Let's see here. While I have yet to play Battletech Alpha Strike, I am sold on that Counters pack recently announced. Looks like great value. I don't think I'm familiar with that. I use Printful integrated with my Shopify store, and it's been great. You know, I looked at Printful, and then I was gonna have to build like a normal store to make it work, and then I was like, oh, that's sort of a bummer. And then Fourth Wall came along, and they use Printful and several other companies as well to source the stuff out. Like, so I was like, okay, so if Printful, if it costs, let's say, I don't know, $10 for me to print a shirt, just as an example, well, then how much extra am I going to have to pay you to print that same $10 shirt? And he's like, no, that's not how it works. I'm like, what do you mean? So from what I understand, the way that Fourth Wall, so if I'm going to be printing a shirt from Printful, I pay the same price if I got it directly from Printful. Even though Fourth Wall is the one that's doing it, the way Fourth Wall makes money is that they get a discount from Printful for it's like an affiliate link, so it's just volume. But the upside to using Fourth Wall is two things. Number one, I don't need to use Shopify. I can just use their built-in store, which actually works quite well. And then secondly, if they don't just work with Printful, they work with actually several different types of printers, so I can get stuff from this and this and this, and I don't have them within arm's reach, but like the cool printed tumblers and all kinds of, so I get access to more stuff with Fourth Wall, which I've been pretty happy with. I hate that they discontinued Cricut Craft Room. My old Cricut is basically useless now. Can't you send stuff from the Cricut design app to your Cricut, or is it because it's an old one that it doesn't do that? I don't know. Like, what I do is I make a design, and then the Cricut app is technically, it's a web-based app. So I go to that thing, and then I upload the graphic to it, and then it's on there. And then I go downstairs in the basement, and then I bring up the Cricut app on my phone, and then my project is in there because it's been uploaded to the cloud. And then I just connect my phone via Bluetooth, I'm pretty sure, to my Cricut, and then tell it do this thing, and then it does it. And it's actually kind of convenient. But I don't know if I don't know what older ones. That my machine is a Cricut Maker, maybe. I don't think it's the newest one. I think the newest one is maybe called the Cricut Maker 3 or something like that. But honestly, the resin for the printers seems thinner than the Hobby UV stuff, and it maybe set at a different wavelength. That could be. I hadn't thought of that. Jeweler's 3D resin has anti-yellowing agents in it. Oh, that'd be important. Yeah, because I could see, like with 3D printer resin, you wouldn't matter if it got yellow a little bit, right? Especially if you're going for clear stuff, because you're probably going to paint over it, maybe. But for the jewelry stuff, you wouldn't want it to get yellow. That makes a good sense. Which Cricut machine would you recommend? Like I said, I think I have the Maker, but it was expensive. I mean, it was not cheap. Let's see here. Where are we? I went way too back. UV resin from a printer can be used with hand. Hand? I don't know. You mean by hand? I don't know. Gene Jordan says I can recommend Cricut Maker 3, but it's costly. Yeah. Jewelry stuff is more durable than the 3D printer stuff. I could see that too, sure. Also, if you play at your local shop, buy from your local shop. If they close, you lose your play space. Yeah, I made a video about that years ago. Basically, if you want to go and be able to play there, you should buy things there. It was amazing how many people in the comments were like, but I hate my local store and I never go there. Why would I spend money there? And I'm like, no, I said, if you play there and you go, then you should buy from there. That if you don't go there ever and you hate it and they're mean and they throw things at you, then don't buy stuff from them. Like that. It was amazing how many people were like, well, I think they were like taking that. Maybe they just looked at the, sometimes people just look at the thumbnail and then comment, I think, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think it was someone like saying you shouldn't buy online, you should only buy from stores. And then they didn't watch the video where I said, if you want to be able to play at the store and you do play at the store, you should buy from the store, as opposed to just because there's a store, you should buy from it and not buy things online, which I don't agree with. If you don't have a store and you're in the local area, you buy online. Or if you don't like your store and they're you know, you don't want to, then don't. I get it. Sitting down to build some Black Templars. Glad to catch the live show. We're glad to have you, Mark. You knew I was going to buy it already from Witty's stream. Oh, sure. Yeah. Demon Ship. Gotcha. Not sure how it is your neck of the woods, but the supply chain still seems wonky to me. Yeah, I think it is. I think it still is. We're constantly out of stock on random items in local stores here. Yep. I think it's not, I mean, it's better, but it's not back for sure. I buy from local retailers simply because that's the only option I have. Plus, I want to support my local retailers. Makes sense. Rust-Oleum camouflage paint is the flattest flat primer I've ever used. Yeah, no, it is super, super flat. So is the Krylon stuff. Both of those camouflage, because I think that, and this doesn't make any sense, I was going to say stuff isn't shiny in nature. And I'm like, well, I mean, it kind of is. Like if things are wet, things are shiny, but whatever. They've designed, I think that you're trying not to get reflections too much. Like what that stuff is designed for predominantly is for, I have a fiberglass canoe that I don't want to be red anymore. I want it to be camouflage so I can sneak up on ducks and shoot them in the butt or whatever. And so you want it to not be shiny, but that is actually great for what we like to do, because then super matte, like, you know, paint has great tooth, which means that it will hold on to the paint when you paint it. If you have a super, super shiny, glossy primer, very frequently you'll paint, especially if you thin down your paint a little bit, it will be almost hydrophobic, and you'll put the paint on there and it'll bead up and not, so yeah, you want it to be kind of flat, and so it works out quite well. Let's see here. Brats, indeed. Are you going to upload some demo play of the new game once it's out? I think most of your viewers would enjoy seeing you guys explain your own game. Yeah, Vince, like the last game, Vince will do the battle report, and I will do. So we'll both make our own video. That'll be like, hey, we've launched a new game. Vince will also, and those will be on each of our own channels. Vince will post the battle report, which we will share on the website. And it might also just go straight up on his video, on his channel too. I'm not sure yet, but it'll definitely be on the website. I will post a video that's going to be about 2.5 minutes long that explains like what is the game. That'll also be on the website. And then I will probably also do something that will just be a very simple like turn structure, like, okay, this is how you do initiative, and this is how you shoot this person, and this is how this happens, and then this person falls over and is dead, or whatever, that kind of thing. It'll be a very, again, short video that'll just show you a very kind of basic overview of the game loop. So you can look at it and go, oh, that is something I'm interested in, or not, or whatever. But Vince will do a battle report. That is the current plan. We talked about that last week. He did the same thing with Space Station Zero, so you could watch that if you wanted to. It's on the Space Station Zero website, which is spacestationzerogame.com. Zero spelled out, not the number. Here's the real question: bratwurst or hot link? Oh, bratwurst, I think. Started on a modern iteration of the old landing pad 42 from the 90s White Dwarf issues, the round one. Mine is now 50 centimeters in diameter, and I'm struggling to find structured plastic sheet for a metal-like coating. Oh, I can understand that, yeah. Do you actually have a favorite GW faction? I don't know. I do seem to like to paint. I guess I probably seem to be more of an Imperium guy, because the 4 combat patrols that I've purchased so far have been Death Watch, Astra Militarum, Adeptus Mechanicus, and Blood Angels. The one that I didn't buy, but I have because GW sent it to me back before I told them, or asked them to stop sending me 40K stuff, was Tau. So I have the Tau one as well, but that one was one that they'd sent me. But otherwise, yeah, all the rest of that stuff, the ones that I bought have all been Imperium. I don't know what it is about, like, I like some of the models for Votan, like the base Hearthkin guys are pretty cool. I appreciate the orcs, but I've never particularly wanted any. I've painted some for fantasy. Well, technically it was for Warhammer Underworlds. I painted some. Never been interested in elves. I've talked about that before. Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe because I'm a human and most of the Imperium is humans, that's some sort of psychological thing. I don't know. I mean, the Adeptus Mechanicus are human-ish, human-esque. I don't know. But I want to start playing Space Station Zero as my first miniature game. How is a good way to go about building my board? It's a 22 by 30 board, so it's the same size as Kill Team or Warcry. You can buy if you don't want to build anything, if you just want to buy something, you could buy a Kill Team board. They're relatively inexpensive, but you can also buy mats for playing Kill Team or Warcry. There's lots of companies out there that sell mats that sell them in 22 by 30. So for those games, so you could buy one of those easily. But otherwise, I would take a look at oh gosh. Either Mel the Terrain Tutor, he just goes by the Terrain Tutor on YouTube, or Black Magic Craft are both good terrain building channels here on YouTube, and you could check them out and see like what they're doing as far as like because they've got videos about building boards. Also, Geek Gaming Scenics is another one you could also take a look at here on YouTube. There's plenty of different videos out there about making your own board. That's what I would take a look at to start and kind of go from there. But if you just wanted to buy something, yeah, you should be able to find something easily because Space Station Zero, like I said, uses the same size board as Kill Team and Warcry, 22 by 30. I'm making a Swamp Death World board for Kill Team. I got some resin cast fallen logs and roots, and they're actually just aquarium decorations, but they do work in the scale. Yeah, aquarium decorations can work quite well in the scale, that's for sure. Cricut is a tabletop fabric and paper cutter. Yeah, it's like a robot cutter thingy. It's got like wheels in there so it can move the stuff back and forth, and then it's got a blade that goes back and forth this way so it can cut out whatever kind of shape you need and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. If you have an old Cricut with the cartridge-based system, you can get a program called Sure Cuts a Lot. Connect the Cricut to a computer with the program using a standard printer USB cord. Neat. If you're making faux topaz, then yellowing would be okay. True. That's a good point. My local store has 2 dedicated places for wargaming with mats. Back in the day, they had an actual terrain board for Battletech. Then some jerk actually stuck a pencil in it. Well, that's not very nice. I mean, you could probably seal that up in some fashion and repaint it a little bit, but yeah. Wish my local shops would throw things at me. I would come home with less random stuff. Well, there you go. When I ran open D&D tables weekly for a bunch of kids at the FLGS, I had to tell them, hey guys, I know you aren't in the kind of money I have from having a job. I just heard a cat throw up. Sorry. Buy a snack. Oh yeah, when you're going to the shop, yeah. If you're just going to play D&D and you're a kid and whatever, but if you buy some snacks, then that's at least something. That's true. Those camouflages are excellent for doing terrain. Thanks for that tip. Yeah, those spray cans are great. I have ideas for creating smoke coming out of barrels for the Battletech diorama I'm working on. I've never liked that. That's the this model here, which is I did a video about this, about painting, like doing weathering and stuff like that. This is a 3D print from Archvillain, and he's got like smoke coming out of the barrel of this like railgunny thing or whatever this is supposed to be here. And I don't know. I just very frequently I try to not have that stuff on a model if I can. Like GW loves to put smoke coming out of like people's whatever, and I very frequently like to try to cut it off because I just don't like the look of it. I don't know why. So I'm not a good person to answer about that. Can't find the Rust-Oleum camo primer. I think that it'd be big here. At least half of us are rednecks. The other half's going hunting and fishing too. Rust-Oleum and Krylon, and I can usually find Rust-Oleum. Krylon I find a little harder to find. Krylon is, I think, the paints themselves are pretty equal. I just like the cap, not the cap. I guess the trigger thing on the Krylon is nicer than the trigger thing on the Rust-Oleum. That's literally the only difference I can see between the two of them. Hi from Economwalk. I'm not clear on what's the value of entering a mini painting competition if you do not want to do it. I don't know, just to say I have, to say that, you know, I've given it a try. Because people ask me all the time, they're like, why don't you enter competitions and do display painting? And I'm like, because I don't want to. And then they're like, yeah, but how do you know you don't want to if you haven't done it? And I'm like, well, you know. So I'm going to give it a try, see what I think, and then kind of go from there. You know, like I said, very probably the only competition that I will enter, but we'll see. Maybe I'll get super addicted to it, but I doubt it. I didn't mix a primer properly one time and it made all 20 minis hydrophobic, so completely impossible to paint. Yeah, that's no fun. Is there a release date for the new game? Yeah, beginning of June, it looks like. Like the 2nd, I believe. That's the plan. So springtime terrain making. Yeah, it's, I think, the best time to make like boards and stuff like that, because you can be doing it outside. You can be, it takes less time to dry. Outgassing of different weird smells doesn't happen inside your house or your basement. You just get to spend time outside when it's nice, which is lovely as well. So yeah, I've got plans to build a couple of 44 by 30 inch boards, which are the boards that 1,000-point games of Combat Patrol are played on, 1,000-point games of 40K are played on, but I believe it's also the size that Combat Patrol is supposed to be played on, the same size, the incursion size. So there's that, and I could use them for other stuff as well. So yeah, but I also have some 2-foot by 2-foot boards that I've already got that are pre-cut and all that kind of stuff. They're called project boards, and those are great for, I'm going to be building one for The Last War, which is the World War I, kind of weird World War I game from the folks that make Forbidden Psalm. And then also I'm going to build like a one for this one, which is called Kill Sample Process. And this is the cyberpunk version of Forbidden Psalm. So I need like almost like parking lot, but maybe with like some cracks in it and stuff like that. But that's what the base of it is going to be for there. So yeah. Let's see here. Cricut has hobby drama. They wanted to start charging a monthly fee for uploading designs to the cloud, and people freaked out. Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I got an email, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna start doing that." And I was like, "Geez, Louise!" And then like the next morning, I woke up and there was an email from the CEO saying, "Okay, we're not gonna do that. We're just calm down. Everybody stops burning your machines or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, that went real wild overnight, didn't it?" So yeah, they have decided, no, let's not do that, because people are very, very angry at the idea that we're going to charge them to upload their own designs that they made to the machine that they bought from us. Who is surprised by this? Executives, man. It's astounding. People are like, well, maybe they won't notice if we decide to screw them in this way. Yeah, it's amazing. Would have thought Eldar would be your jam. Oh no, 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 no. How about Mats by Mars? Are those good? I think I own one or two. They're kind of shiny for my taste. So yeah, the vinyl, the shininess of them. I think that the newer stuff that they make, and I don't think I have a new mat from the last couple of years, but I think they did find a material more recently that's a bit more matte surface. But I haven't. Did I poke my head in their booth this year? I don't think I did. They were at Adepticon, but I don't think I got a chance to stop and look. Do you have any interest in the old world? Not really. If it's going to be a rank and flank game, I don't like rank and flank games. It's just a personal preference. So that's not really. And if they're going to put them on square bases, then I'm even less interested, because I just don't like square bases either. So yeah, like if they were smart, what I think that they would do with old world is put the models on round bases, but like Song of Ice and Fire and Conquest, Last Argument of Kings, what they do is the models are on round bases, but then they sell you the little trays that have the holes that are already in them. The upside to doing that is twofold. Number one, you can use those models in other games where you're supposed to have a round base. And two, when you put them into those little holes on the thing, you can turn them a little bit. So if you've got somebody who's got a big spear, he's not poking it into the back of the guy in the front rank. So you could turn a little bit so he's going next to that guy. Square bases are, in my opinion, antique, and they shouldn't make them anymore. Just full stop. I think if you want to do rank and flank, that's fine. It's not for me, but I'm not saying the people, but it should be round bases in those trays. It just makes a lot more sense, but we will see. I just don't have an Eldar paint job in me. Oh, yeah, no, that's a good point too. Especially like Harlequins with those checkered pants. No, don't want to do that. That sounds like a pain in the butt. Cat shenanigans. Yeah, there was a little bit of that. Around here, we call it table tax. Buy a drink or a snack per person per hour if you're not buying a product or anything. Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons that I have so many of the little painting handles, the Citadel ones, is because very frequently after playing at my local shop, if I don't buy anything, I'm on the way out, I'm like, well, I'll pick up a painting handle. And to be perfectly honest, it's been great because there have been times where I've like, oh, I got 10 of these guys to paint. Okay, well, I got enough painting handles for that. Well, now I got to paint 5 of these guys. Well, I got enough painting handles for that too. So you're not having to swap stuff around as much. So yeah, I do a lot of batch painting, so having a bunch of painting handles makes a lot of sense. Now, they are considerably more expensive than they used to be. They used to be $8, and I think now they're like 12. So, plus I don't like the new ones as much as the old chunky ones. So I own a couple of the new ones, but most of them I own are the older chunky ones. So, but to be fair, I also haven't really barely been playing at the local shop too much lately either these days, unfortunately. So, but when I do, even then, I'm still going to buy a soda and maybe a candy bar or something like that. I sort of detest effects on models. I get it, but I just like me a plain model, and I like to tell the story of effect or narrative in the painting or diorama, but adding sculpted magic is lame. Yeah, specifically magic, I'm not super interested in having sculpted on the model. Yeah, no, I agree. Like smoke, I don't know. I just don't like the way that GW models smoke very frequently. Like I like most things that GW does in their modeling, but the way that they do smoke and fire, I don't like the look of. Like that's another reason why I don't see myself ever buying the Combat Patrol box for Chaos, because they've got that like Dark Apostle dude in there, and he's just got like smoke and fire and magic and crap coming off of him. I'm like, no, I don't want any of that. Thank you. Just finished a 3x3 board for Shatterpoint. Ready to run our demo games on release. Added a Lazy Susan to allow board edge selection easier. That's a smart move. What is the name of the World War I game? It's called The Last War. You could do a search for Forbidden Psalm, The Last War. Little girlie, what are you doing? Come here. This is Margot. She decided she wanted to be on the dining room table. Yeah, Forbidden Psalm, The Last War is the weird World War I game. It's very cool. Come here. There you go. I don't think there's a steampunk game. There's a cyberpunk game. That one's called Kill Sample Process. Looks like this on the front. If you want printed versions of them, unfortunately, you have to get them from a company called Exalted Funeral, which they're nice folks, don't get me wrong, but like this thin little hardcover is like, I think $40, $45. So, and it's all full color on the inside and it's cool and everything like that. And I appreciate, but like, I don't honestly need, the only reason I've got the hardcovers is because I backed the Kickstarter at the time and I was like, all right, but yeah, you can get them in PDF format though too from Wargame Vault. All the Forbidden Psalm games and the expansions and stuff like that are on Wargame Vault, and they're considerably cheaper. So you can either just get them printed yourself locally or whatever, or just have them on your iPad or your tablet or whatever, and that's also fine too. I like to have them all on my tablet, on my iPad, but I do have. Do I have a hardcover of all three? I think I have a hardcover of all three, but that's just because I've been supporting the Kickstarters. Let's see here. Sorry to go back to the subject, but my significant other is also wondering what are the cost of entry for TMXs and if cards are accepted for entry. It's on the website. I think it's $15. for Saturday. I don't know, it's on the website. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But yes, we will have a Square card reader doohickey thing, so you can pay with cards and stuff. Yeah, I think it's $15 for Saturday and maybe $10 for Sunday, and then there's I can't remember. But take a look. If you go to there we go, tabletopminions.org/tmx. If you go there, you'll find out more information. If you're interested in running stuff, we've got a form there. You can fill out the Game Master form. You can see some of the events that are already there. There'll be more added. Game Masters have a tendency to wait until a couple weeks before the show more often than not to put stuff in there. So we're hoping that we need to do some prodding. But yeah, we've got people who are going to be running several different types of games right now. So that's cool. Some indie stuff that they're bringing that they're working on, and some stuff. One Page Rules is going to be there. They're going to have a booth, and they're going to be running some demos as well, which are currently not on the thing. I got to talk to Param and see if I can't get like a description out of him about like what games they want to run and the kind of stuff like that. And we'll put that in there as well. But yeah, coming up soon. An itchy nose. All right, let's see here. Square bases would still be useful for certain scatter terrain like sheds and other outbuildings. Yeah. I got into Eldar recently, and Turbo Dork paints work great with them. Oh yeah, I could see that for sure. Hey, Uncle Adam, working on some minis for Frostgrave and wanted some advice on finding terrain for it. Do you just use MDF stuff? For Frostgrave, I've used a lot of pre-painted stuff from a company called Battlefield in a Box, which is technically Gale Force 9 / Battlefront. They're out of New Zealand or Australia. I don't remember exactly, but over there. But yeah, I've used a bunch of their stuff. They're the same company that makes like Flames of War and things like that. Gale Force 9 / Battlefront, and but they make really nice, like again, pre-painted terrain that works out well that way. I've used that stuff quite a bit because they make a bunch of like ruined, like, you know, fantasy buildings or ruined medievally like type buildings, and they've worked out quite nice. I found that I liked Harlequins when I gave up on the checkers. Instead, put them on a base, different colors for legs and arms. Yeah, I mean, if you get away from the checkers, I could see them being easier to paint. That's for sure. Generally, I agree, but Kings of War Vanguard makes great use of square bases for tactics and around firing arcs, rear attacks. Sure, I mean, if you've got to track that stuff, you know, different arcs and things like that, then square bases make sense that way. But I also very frequently don't like my games to do that. Like, I like the idea that my guy can turn around, you know, or whatever. And so that's just another level of rules that I'm, you know. So yeah, that's why I'm a big fan of circle bases. Went to my first ever wargaming convention yesterday in London. Oh, nice. Probably must have been Salute, right? Hundreds of tiny rank and flank models on huge tables was certainly not my thing. So skirmish games are more interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of skirmish games as well, and that. But I know that a lot of historical folks like the rank and flank stuff, so that's cool. Smoke is becoming GW's new tactical rock. A little bit. I can understand that. Yeah. Sculpted magic is so hard to paint. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Plus, it limits what you can do. Yeah. Margot looks like the cat I had inherited from my wife. Yeah, she's a calico. She's a lovely little girl. Yes, I was talking about you. You just came up and all of a sudden tapped me on the leg. How you doing? Love the Last War. Just painted up some squads for using plastic World War I Germans from War Games Atlantic. Yeah, I've got the World War I Germans and the French. Yeah. She's back up on the table. That Last War is very tempting. The old DC Comics series Weird War was one of my favorites from childhood. Yeah. Basically, like, the Last War is like post-apocalyptic to some degree. World War I started, and then everything went to crap. and then now it's kind of post-apocalyptic, and it's got stuff in it like haunted tanks, sentient clouds of mustard gas, giant trench maggots, stuff like that. It's pretty dark. All of it is like Forbidden Psalm. That entire line is based off of an RPG game called Morkborg, which is also like black metal kind of like fantasy. It's just, yeah, it's cool stuff. I like to add a wisp from a cotton ball to the ends of gun barrels, which looks a lot more like smoke than a chunk of plastic. I mean, it does. Yeah. What is the game The Other Side? I love some of the minis. I don't know anything about the game. So it's basically an army-sized version of Malifaux. So it takes place in the world of Malifaux, but instead of Malifaux being a very, very skirmish game, this is more of an army-oriented game. The miniatures look cool when you see them until you open them up in the box and see them. I bought into the Last War back in 2019, and because all the models are already pre-assembled. I'm like, you don't have to build and all that stuff and cut things off of sprues? Great. Well, then you get home and you open the boxes and you find out that everyone's weapons are bent, and that the big super cool robot and the big super cool fish guy that you bought that are like seriously like, Imperial Knight sized have giant gaps. Like they're just glued together really poorly. Like you could slip a dime into some of these gaps. And I was just like, really? I mean, the stuff was inexpensive, but it seems like we know why now. And so if you got interested in it, you would definitely want to open the boxes and look at the stuff beforehand, or just be prepared to fill tons of gaps and to rebend swords and guns and junk like that. So yeah, but it is an army style game. It's not a skirmish game. Just watched your Adepticon cast. Got to see myself on screen. Nice. Should have stopped at the Long War doubles table and chatted with us. I remember I walked by there, I believe. I think I remember. It seems like that part of the tournament area moved around a bunch this year. Like things kind of got shifted around a bit more. Battlefront are Kiwis based out of Auckland. That's what I thought. Would love to see a game that's co-op versus AI, but where each player plays one model that has an almost RPG-style in-depth character sheet and has a campaign system with between mission advancements. It kind of sounds like you want to play a role-playing game, but with miniatures, which you technically can. Like you play D&D, like 5th edition or whatever, or any other kind of role-playing game, and just play with miniatures. $15 for Saturday, $10 for Sunday, and $25 for both with a bonus door prize ticket. That's right. I knew it was something like that. Let's see here. Anyone tried the Cyberpunk Forbidden Psalm? I'm building stuff for it. I've read through the book, and I'm going to do a battle report based off of, it's called Kill Sample Process. I have the hardcover right here, as a matter of fact. But yeah, I like it. They've like Forbidden Psalm came out, and then Last War came out, and Last War like added a few things to it, and now Kill Sample Process has added even a little bit more. So there's that too. All right, cool. There's birds out there. I don't know why you're sitting here at the dining room table. There's birds out there. You could be looking at birds. No? Okay. Core Space is great for co-op skirmish versus AI enemies with light RPG leveling between missions. I mean, like that's kind of what we do. That's definitely what we did with Space Station Zero. Was designed to be played either solo or co-op, and then you would go through and then you would upgrade your people in between missions and things like that. But you were never just playing one model. You were playing anywhere between 5 and 9 models. That's your crew. And Reign in Hell, the game before that, had the same ability, but only if you got the expansion. When Reign in Hell initially came out, it was just a versus game. There was no solo or co-op, but we added solo and co-op later because a lot of people asked about it because it was still still pandemic days, and so we did that. And then we just decided going forward we're always probably going to put in, for most things, we're probably going to put in solo and co-op. There might be some little mini game that we do here or there that'll just be versus because it's easier than writing an AI, but most of the big games that we put out once per year will be designed to have solo and co-op built in pretty much all the time. It's a little like Rangers of Shadow Deep. Yeah, I can see that. Last War looks fun. I've been meaning to pick it up eventually. It's very cool. Solo is my jam. Nice. Well, folks, it's 11 o'clock here in my neck of the woods, so I'm going to go, and I'll see you folks again soon. I'll be streaming tomorrow night on Twitch, as I normally do, Monday nights at 7 p.m. Central, and Fridays also at 10 a.m. Central. I usually go for about 3 hours on both of those. So follow me over at twitch.tv/tabletopminions if you're into watching me paint stuff and chat with the chat and all that kind of jazz. Otherwise, yeah, we'll be back here in 2 weeks. By that point, the next game will be sent off to the printers, so that'll be good, but I'll be getting things ready for launch in June, and getting things ready for Tabletop Minions Expo and all that kind of stuff. So again, thanks everybody for coming by and hanging out, and have yourself a good rest of your day or evening, or maybe already morning, depending on where you live, and we'll see you again soon.